Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine and today we'll be cooking rosemary chops with a sweet red wine sauce and green beans and shallots. First things first, we want to do is wash our hands because of sanitary. So we're going to wash our hands in hot water. About 20 seconds in. Make sure you scrub under your fingernails and just scrub your hands. Make sure you get whatever dirt's on there because you don't want it to affect the food because, you know, you can make people sick by having unclean hands. Alright? First things first, we're going to make our sweet red wine sauce for the rosemary pork chops. Here are our ingredients for the sauce. First things first, we have our sweet red wine by Oak Leaf, our red pepper flakes, our flour, our beef broth, our salt, and these are the vegetables that I use to marinate the pork chops in overnight with some rosemary and peppercorns. So first things first, we want to start and get this on the stove immediately. Okay, first things first, to begin making our sauce, we want to take our vegetables and get a nice roasting, dark, almost burnt color on it, you know, so it'll make the sauce color appear to be more darker. So first things first, we're going to put these in here. Go ahead and just roast those a little bit. Stir them up there a little bit around there so they get coated with the oil. We're going to turn our stove up just a little bit on. I put mine on 7, you know, closer up to high. So I can get this, so I can get a nice color on them. Nice color. And also the flavor will be great too, also on it. Okay, see right here what I did right here? This onion right here, this piece right here, you want a nice caramelized, almost burnt looking color overall. It'll make the flavor of the sauce be really well as adding to the dark color. So you want that all over on these vegetables. Just stir it a little bit and just kind of let the cooking do itself. Also, if you're wondering why I have huge chunks of carrots and onions, in the French cuisine we call this mirepoix. And what mirepoix is huge, inconsistent sized chunks. And what they do is flavor food, sauces, anything. And these really are good for any kind of dish that you want to do. Okay guys, you see how I got this nice caramelized color on here? What we're going to do now is add our flour. This is a process called sanjay. What you do is, what the flour is going to do for the sauce is thicken it. So you want to get that coated on the vegetables right about now. And you just want to let this cook for about 1 to 2 minutes just to cook out the raw flour taste. And then what we're going to do next is add our wine on top of this and kind of reduce it by half and then we're going to pour our beef stock on it. Okay, now we're going to add our wine. Now what I did was I added like 2 cups and a half. So what you want to do, what that means, about 16 to 17 ounces, 500 grams. And see what we're going to do is we're going to bring this wine up to a boil so we can reduce it by half. So our mixture has been reduced by half, so now what we want to do is we're going to put our 2.5 cups of beef stock in here. We're going to bring the mixture to a boil so that we can activate the flour in there, which will help thicken the sauce. If you bring any kind of starch to a boil, what it does is activates it so that it can thicken the sauce. Okay, now we brought our mixture to a boil, so let's turn it down and let it simmer for 20 to 30 minutes on medium heat. Here we have our sauce. We're about to strain it so that we can put it back on the stove so that it could reduce down and get a proper consistency because it's a little soupy right now. We want it to be thick. Yeah, we want it to be a little thicker than this. Okay, see what we did here with our sauce is we let it simmer through 15 to 20 minutes before straining the vegetables out of it. The vegetables aren't really needed for the sauce, it's just to add the flavor to it. So now we're going to let this cook for another 15 minutes just so it thickens. Okay, now our sauce is done and all that's left to do is to just season it to taste. Now what I'm going to do is add a little red pepper and a little salt. You know, you can season it however you want to. You know, season it to how you like its taste. Because I'm going to season the way I like it too. So right here we have our extra olive oil in the pan heating up. We're about to sear our pork chops. What I did was season them with a little bit of seasoned salt and garlic powder. So now we're just going to get a real nice brown color on both sides before we put them into the oven and let them cook for at least about 20 to 30 minutes until done. See that nice brown color on the pork chop? That's what we want on both sides. Both sides before we really put it into the oven. Alright, now we're about to put our pork chops in the oven. So, follow me. And we're going to let them stay in there for about 20 to 30 minutes and just until they're done. Okay, while we're waiting for our pork chops to be done, we're going to cook our green beans. So first things first, we're going to boil our water. What I did was I put a little salt in here for the vegetables to add a little seasoning, a little flavor. What we're going to do is just go ahead and cut our stove on high so we get that water boiling, and then we're going to throw the green beans in there. So right now our water for our green beans has boiled. We're going to go ahead and pour our green beans over in there. We're just going to let them cook. When they turn like a light green color, that means that's when they're done. I have a bowl of ice next to the stove, so once the green beans get cooked, we can shock them. What that does is when you shock them in ice, that stops the cooking process so they don't get overcooked. Green beans are still cooking. You know, what you want to do is just cook them until they're tender and they have like a light green color on them. You don't want to lose your color. If you lose your color, it means you're overcooking them. So here our green beans are. They're sitting in ice cold water. The cooking process is being stopped, and once they're cool, we're going to take them out. Our green beans are done cooking. They're in the ice cold water, and the cooking process is stopped. So we're going to let them cool for about a minute or two before we go into cooking them with the shallots and the butter. Okay, we have our pan for our green beans, shallots, and butter. It's getting hot. What I'm going to do is sweat our shallots in some butter for about a minute or two, just until you can really like smell the flavor of the shallots coming off, and then we're going to add our green beans. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and put our butter in. Kind of like just swirl that around the pan for a little bit, you know, so it can coat the shallots with it and it doesn't get a burnt flavor on there or a burnt color on there. And then I'm going to add my shallots once the butter's melted all the way. I'm going to add my shallots now. Just let that sweat for a minute. When I mean to sweat, I mean to get no color on it. Just no color whatsoever. No color. Just let that cook for a minute or two. Like I said, just until you smell the flavor and the scent of the onion, of the shallot. Okay, our shallots are sweated down in the butter really well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add some of my green beans in the pan with just a little bit of salt for flavoring. There we go. Just get a good amount in there and kind of stir it up in there and mix it up so we can get the flavor of the shallots. Get a little salt in here. Sprinkle a little bit on my. There we go. And then also, like after you're done, if you don't feel like however much salt you want to put in there, if you feel like it's not enough seasoning, go ahead and adjust that. It's whatever your seasoning taste feels like to you. Whatever you want to, how much ever seasoning you want to put on there, you go ahead right ahead and put it in there. We're going to cook them for about just a minute or two, just until they get a little hot. And that's it, because you don't want to scorch the green beans. You don't want them to lose their flavor or the color. Our green beans and shallots are done. Now it's time to move on to plating. Everything else is done. We're taking our pork chops out the oven. It's time to move on to plating. We're moving on to our plating process. The first we're going to plate is our green beans. Just going to put that a little bit in the center, just almost in the center of the plate. Okay. Now we're going to plate our pork chop. And now we're going to pour our sauce over it that we made, our sweet red wine sauce. Here's our sauce. Now we can eat and enjoy. And this has been Cooking with Jasmine. Thank you for allowing me to show you my recipe. I hope you all enjoy.